Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Kevin Lee, and on behalf of the Organ Donation Advisory Committee, it is my honor to welcome you to the 2025 Donor Family Recognition event. We take great pride here in the state of Missouri on partnering with the state's Department of Health and Senior Services to host this event each year here in Jefferson City. It is one of a few, if not the only, event that is held by a state government to honor and celebrate your loved ones who is a donor hero. We would like to say on behalf of the entire committee, we'd like to begin by saying thank you to all the donor families who are here with us today. You have taken what was undoubtedly one of the most difficult days you have ever experienced and turned it into a miracle for someone else. That decision takes incredible courage and generosity. On behalf on all of us, we say thank you. This afternoon, we are here to honor and celebrate your loved one who created a legacy of life that lives on in others through their selfless act. As the picture frames behind me say, your loved one lived life and gave life. And let us all remember that not only today during the ceremony, but as we leave the church and go back to our lives afterwards, that we are lifting up each and every one of your loved ones each and every day as they lived life and gave life. To begin our recognition program, I would like to invite Pastor Trevor Dancer to the podium to begin with a devotion.
Good afternoon. I know that all of you came from all sorts of different parts all across the state to get here today. Many of you drove many hours and have, decided that from the southeast to the center part of the state, there's no straight way. That's where I come from. I come all the way from across the street. It's where my office is. I'm the lead pastor at First United Methodist Church here in Jefferson City, and I'm honored and privileged to be able to be here and speak today. I'm going to begin with this. Thank you. Thank you for allowing your loved ones to allow their life to give life to others. It is an act of love for fellow human beings. That's what it is. It's an act of love for fellow human beings. I'm reminded in the scripture, there's lots of verses, but the two that kind of stand out to me is John 15:12 says, "My command is this, love each other as I have loved you." And from Mark 12:31, love your neighbor as yourself. Throughout Scripture, from beginning to end, it seems clear to me, at least, that the best way to honor God, maybe the only way to honor God, is to love one another. To live your life as an act of love to fellow human beings. It isn't about sound doctrine. It isn't about whether you say cuss words or the right words. It isn't about how many times you attend church or if you know the lyrics to certain music. To follow in the ways of Jesus is to love others above yourself. Your loved ones that you commemorate today have done that very thing. And as you well know, it's not theoretical. It's very much real. That selfless act beyond life itself. In my own congregation, there was a man who in 2023 needed an organ donation. He was in the hospital for many years, and in the time his son grew from 6-year-old to 8-year-old. And then they got the call in 23 that an organ donation was ready. And as you know, that isn't quite so simple as a process as it sounds. It's incredibly complex. He was in the hospital in and out for the next 18 months. Today, he's living a bright, healthy life. His 8-year-old son has his father with him. In fact, they played Mario Kart with me and my son recently, and we lost. I'm bitter about it. But that's only possible because of such selfless acts like your loved ones have done. And as you all know, many of you have navigated the year of first. The first year without your loved one. First birthdays, anniversaries, weird rituals you do throughout the year, holidays, you name it. It's a tough year, that year of first. And you know all too well the pain that feels whenever grief comes at you and sucker punches you out of nowhere. You know the pain that it feels when others feel this unnecessary need to walk on eggshells around you, when all you really want is to crave them to talk about their loved one. Jamie Anderson once said, "Grief, I've learned, is really just love. It's all the love you want to give, but cannot. All of that unspent love gathers up in the corners of your eyes, the lump of your throat, and in that hollow part of your chest. Grief is just love with no place to go." You know that all too well, better than most. All that love you want to give, and it's just not there to give it. I hope that your experiences today maybe offered a small measure of peace. Grief will still be there, and it's very real. It's never something you get over. You just learn to live with it. And with time, the raw edge of it becomes less sharp, and you learn to live with it. But I know that your loved ones continue to live on through selfless acts of organ donation to other people. And I hope it offers some small measure of peace to know that their life continues on. My last piece is from Philippians 2:3-4. It says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility and value others above yourself, not looking at your own interests, but to the interests of others." Your loved ones have honored God in a way that honors all of us. They've lived a life worthy of recalling their stories and telling their names year after year after year. They're nothing less than heroic. So may we honor them today. May we give thanks for them today. And above all, may we seek to emulate their love every day that lives in and through each of you. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. I would now like to invite my colleague, Nikki Love, to the podium to share her words of thanks with you today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nikki. I'll start off by saying when I was 16, I live in Illinois, so I went to get my driver's license, skip school, go get my driver's license, and they asked me if I wanted to be a registered organ, eye, and tissue donor. I didn't know anything about it at the time. It was not something that was talked about in my household, but I was born and raised in the church, and I know that to be absent from the body means to be present with the Lord. So I said yes. I was excited about it. I went home and told my mom and let her know, hey, they can have whatever they need. At the age of 20, I was diagnosed as a type 1 insulin-dependent diabetic. And I lived that way for many years. And I didn't have any issues. Just living life, checking my blood sugar, taking my insulin, watching what I eat. Didn't have any problems. In 2014, I started having some issues. I went to the urgent care. They did some lab work and all the tests they run, and they called me and said, you need to go to see the nephrologist immediately. So they got me an appointment for the next day. I went to see the nephrologist. He told me that he diagnosed me with chronic kidney disease, stage 3. He says, okay, we're gonna move some medicines around. I'm gonna put you on this, I'm gonna take you off this. I'll see you back in a month, go have your lab work done. I'll see you in a month. I went back in a month, I had progressed to stage 4. So at that point, I had a really good nephrologist, and he sat me down and he was like, I think you need to go and see the transplant doctor, which is what I did. And the doctor, we talked, he, asked me about what I had going on health-wise and all that. And he said he figured that I was going to be a good candidate for a kidney transplant. Because I had diabetes, I would need a pancreas to cure the diabetes if I didn't get one, the same thing would wind up happening. I would need another kidney in a few years, and it would just kind of keep going. So he wanted to solve the root of the problem, which was the diabetes. I went through a evaluation for transplant, lasted about 6 months, and on July 31st of 2015, I was able to be listed for a kidney and a pancreas. That first week, I received a call within 4 days, because when I was listed, I was at the top of the list. And the doctor, they called, they said, "Hey, Nikki, don't eat or drink anything after midnight. We think we have organs for you. We're gonna call you back." And I'm excited. My mom lives up near Chicago. So I call my mom, "Mom, they've got organs. Okay, you got your backpack, come on." They called me back in a couple hours. I'm like, "Okay, never mind." The doctor decided to pass on those. So I'm like, okay, what is going on? Because at this point, I had gotten really, really sick. I had no energy. I was getting iron infusions weekly. I was swole up like twice the size. I had to go out and buy a size and a half pair of shoes larger than what I normally wear because my feet wouldn't fit anything else. I couldn't fit in pants. I would wear skirts all the time. And I'm just like, okay, I'm getting really sick. Why did you pass on those? But of course, they don't tell you that. They just tell you, okay, we decided to pass on those organs. I got another call 3 days later. "Hey, Nikki, we've got organs. Okay, we're gonna call you back. You get ready. Don't eat anything after midnight." I get excited, call my mom again. "Okay, Mom, they call me back. They call me back right at midnight. Okay, Nikki, never mind. The doctor decided to pass on those." And I would not receive another call for 2.5 months. And at this point, I was barely functioning. I was so sick. But I got the third call. They said, "Okay, Nikki, we need you to come up to the hospital. We think we got organs. We're gonna do the surgery in the morning." I was already at the hospital. And I was like, because I worked there at the hospital. So I'm struggling, still trying to work through all of this. But I had a really good manager that knew what was going on, and she was like, "If you need to come in on the weekend, just do that." And it was a weekend. And I was just like, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna call my mom because they're gonna call me back in a couple of hours and be like, "No, that's all right, don't come." And I didn't call her. A couple hours later, they called me back. She was like, "Well, Nikki, where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm working." And she was like, No, we need you to go home and get your stuff. We've got organs for you. We're gonna do the surgery in the morning." And I just kind of sat on the phone for a minute because I was like, yeah, okay. But this time they really did have organs for me. I called my mom crying on the phone. "They got organs, they got organs. Okay, this is real this time. Get on the road and come." They were gonna do the surgery that next morning. So I went in at about 1 o'clock that Sunday, and the surgery was a lengthy one. My mom says that it lasted well after midnight, until maybe, I wanna say 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I remember just a little bit, that first few days was really tough for me, but I came out on the other side. So what you families have gone through, I'm the other side of that. So on Sunday, October the 18th, 2015, I received a kidney and a pancreas transplant. I'm living because someone said yes. And that journey, it was not easy by no means, but I'm here today to tell my story. And not too long after I started getting better, probably within the year, I wanted to give back. So I contacted someone at Mid-America Transplant to be a volunteer. And I started volunteering with them and going to events and talking to churches, anything that I could do just to give back for what I had been given. And I did that, and A few years later, someone from over there called, Nikki, we got a job over here. And here I am. But I say that to say I work with you all every day. That's what I do. I work in donor family care, and I service the donor families. I talk to them. I ask them about their loved ones. I ask them, what can I do to help you through your grief journey? What is it that you need? And I get to know them on a personal level, and it is so amazing. Amazing for them to talk about their loved ones and how they honor them, how they love them, and that they were able to donate and help people. And it's a privilege for me to tell them my story and for us to celebrate together, celebrate life, celebrate the legacy of their loved one. So today I'm here to honor my donor. His name was Marcus. He was a 23-year-old young man, that of course passed away way too soon. He was a son, he was a brother, he was a nephew, but more importantly to me, he was my organ donor. He was my lifeline. He gave me the gift of life, and I'm so grateful for him, and I cherish it, and I'm thankful for it every day, because that could have gone a whole totally different way. But I appreciate you. If it was either you saying yes, or if it was your loved one that said the yes, you allowed it. And I'm grateful for you for doing that, for saving lives and enhancing lives, and we appreciate it. If you've not heard from someone hasn't sent you a thank you or written you a letter, I'm here to say thank you. We're grateful because it saves lives, it enhances lives, and it's an honor to be able to say that I'm here to honor my donor. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks for coming here to honor Marcus today and to share his story with us. Our next speaker has been a relentless and tireless warrior for organ donation education in the state of Missouri for over 25 years. Please join me in welcoming Kim Harbor to the podium.
Grief is a demanding companion. Some days will be happy, some will feel lighter. Some moments will bring unexpected waves of sadness, while others will be filled with gratitude for the love you were lucky enough to experience. I don't think there's a measuring stick or a formula that can predict how long a person will mourn the death of a person that they love. But I do think the small markers on our own personal measuring sticks are much more important than we might suspect. I think healing happens in centimeters, and each small dash is a triumph. Your child has 2 years to live without a liver transplant. Those 11 words spoken to our family by a transplant surgeon when our child Luke was only 5 months old changed the trajectory of our life. Our family was suddenly immersed in the world of organ donation and transplantation. We found ourselves lost, coping the best we knew how, raising another little boy, and at the same time, both of us working full-time jobs. But somehow we found our way. We waited 6 months, and at 11 months old, our son Luke was successfully transplanted. And I'm happy to tell you he's 29 years old now. Our donor gave him the opportunity to graduate from high school, graduate from college, and live a robust life, all because our donor family said yes. You did that too. For the recipients who received your loved one's organs, you gave them the continuing of life experiences. Luke's donor was an 8-year-old little boy by the name of Aaron. Aaron's family was on a camping trip in the Lake of the Ozarks when he suffered a severe allergic reaction that suddenly closed his airway. He was airlifted to Springfield, But 3 days later, he lost brain function, and his parents said yes to organ donation. Donor families are my favorite. You're my people. You are compiled of strength, courage, love, and compassion during a time that is unimaginable. For you not only saved the life of a person who received your loved one's gift of life, but you gave hope to family and friends. Hope that there is goodness in this world. Hope that the kindness of a stranger can make the greatest impact, saving and enhancing the life of another. I spent the last 27 years of my life as an organ donor advocate, for this is my way of showing gratitude for the life that Luke now lives because of an organ donor. The longest journey any of us will take is only 18 inches from our minds to our hearts. The heart remembers everything it loved and gave away. The heart remembers everything it lost and found again. And the heart remembers everyone it loved, for the heart cannot forget. Honor your grief, for it is sacred. It is a testament to the depth of your heart, and in time through the pain, you will find healing, not because you have forgotten, but because you have learned how to carry both love and loss together.
Thank you, Kim, for being with us here today to share Aaron's story. Next, please join me in welcoming donor family member and recipient Michael Nolte.
Good afternoon. My story is a little unique in the sense that in the world of organ donation, I have what they call experience on both sides of the OR. I am referenced as a donor uncle and also an organ recipient. And how could that be? Well, it was a very horrible scenario, as you guys know, horrible scenarios that what happened. If any of you know where Chamois, Missouri is, it's just down Highway 50. Well, that's where I grew up. My father was a railroader, and he always taught his 7 grandchildren coming onto a railroad track, stop, look, and listen. My sister lived in that same community with my folks, and I and my family live in Kansas City. And on a Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock, no rain, no clouds, no drugs, no smoking, no alcohol, nothing. My niece, Micah, named for me, was 18 years old, had just graduated from high school the month earlier, was headed to MU to become an equine veterinarian, and was traveling her Jeep with a friend from high school, and they were kind of talking about their future. They came upon a set of railroad tracks. There were 2 of them there. Trains are often stopped in Chamois because it's halfway between Kansas City and St. Louis, and they would do brake checks there. And when the train started to blow the whistle, like we're headed out onto St. Louis, we know from the survivor in this accident that they believed that that horn was the train giving notice that they were leaving. Micah looked, and to the left was the bluffs that you know all through that Missouri River area in Herman, Missouri, and the trees had not been trimmed yet by Union Pacific. And a freight train came roaring around the corner and struck her right in the side of this Jeep. And she was thrown out of the Jeep, and the back of her head was removed as she laid on the gravel next to the railroad. It was beyond comprehension. My wife was a registered nurse, and we had originally lived in Columbia, and she was a nurse in Columbia. And as we're making the quick trip to Columbia, I hear my wife on the phone talking to her nursing friends in the ICU. Has anyone talked to Michael's sister about donation of organs? And I'm like, what are you talking about? We're only going to talk about organ donation if Micah's going to die, and she is not going to die. Well, I think my wife knew more about it than I did, obviously, at the time. The point being that then through the next 3 or 4 days, we were just in this frozen time of funeral planning, but my sister really relied on me to help guide her through this nightmare. And so when the folks from Midwest Organ Transplant Network approached us in this very chilly, small, private waiting area, they came to us with the questions, would you like would you consider your daughter being an organ donor? My brother-in-law and sister hadn't really ever talked about it or thought about it. And then they were able to pull up Micah's driver's license, and she had signed it. So that kind of gave them a bit. But at that point, being a minor, a next of kin could overrule that decision made on the back of an organ. And it took quite a while for them to think through this, like an hour and a half before there was actually the yes. And with that then, I was the guy making the decisions, and with my sister's blessing. Heart, yes. Pancreas, yes. Lungs, yes. Kidneys, there's 2 of those. Corneas, there's 2 of those. Liver, yes. Skin, bone, tissue, tendons. And I went, no. I said, that's too barbaric. I was the person in charge of creating that funeral then. That happened 5 or 6 days later. Her visitation was on the 4th of July in the church that my great-grandfather built in Chamois, Missouri. And, you know, as a small town and a young person getting killed tragically, everybody shows up. And there were 1,200 people who came to the visitation that night at a gigantic funeral the following day. And we were able to get a hearse that was drawn by horses to honor her love of horses. And that's how we took her to the family plot in our Catholic cemetery there in Chamois. So our life goes on, and I'm kind of in charge of limping our family along. And somebody told me on the first Christmas, try to do something that's not traditional so that you're not necessarily looking at the empty plate or the empty chair. So I made arrangements that we would go to Big Cedar Lodge. We got 2 cabins side by side, grown-ups in one, grandchildren in the other. Micah's 19th birthday was December the 23rd. And I was in touch with Midwest Organ Transplant Network in Kansas City at that time. And I think we might have received 1 letter from a recipient at that point. But I said, just in case something would come in while we're gone for 4 or 5 days, would you fax it back in faxing days to us at Big Cedar Lodge? And on her birthday, on her 19th birthday, with a candle from her funeral altar there and her picture and her favorite birthday cake there as we were going to sing happy birthday, I get a phone call from the front desk. One of the recipients had just faxed a thank you letter. And in that letter, this man was 42 years old in Pennsylvania, a father of 2 children. He had 3 days left to live. And ironically, the picture that he accompanied with that fax was him on a horse. He's a rodeo rider. And so it was just, it was the most complete and wonderful feeling to know that a piece of Micah's kidney was still riding horses like she loved. We fast forward then through the holidays, we come into spring, and I'm asked to facilitate organizing another funeral for a young lady who had lived with us when she was a senior at Mizzou, and we had a big downstairs that our kids weren't using that she could rent. And Kathy died of a stroke caused by lupus when she was 34 years old. Her sister called and said, could you help me with ideas about Kathy's funeral? We'd like you to be a pallbearer, but I forgot to mention, I'm a wedding planner and I own bridal salons in Kansas City. And this was on May the 21st going into Memorial Day weekend, which is the heaviest wedding weekend of the entire year. And I did have 4 weddings and I'm physically there directing. And she said, I know you have weddings this weekend and we'll do the funeral after you can get finished with your weddings. And I said, no, we're not planning Kathy's funeral over a fax machine. Are you going to be using Arnold Funeral Home in Mexico, Missouri? Yes. I said, I'll see you there tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I get up in the morning, I head down I-70, and near the Higginsville exit, I was pulled over by a young state trooper, and my offense was that I was driving in the left-hand lane without actively passing. So I was pulled over near Higginsville, mile marker 47. If you're over that direction, you'll see this gigantic white cross there. I've been told it's the largest fatality tribute in the country. And anyway, the trooper asked me to get out of my car, get into his car with him. I'd like to say I've never been pulled over before, but I've never been asked to get into the trooper's car. The car was a Ford Crown Victoria. Another driver coming down I-70 was driving with his right leg up on a dashboard. He was having an argument with his wife. He threw the cell phone across the dashboard, knocked his sunglasses off. And in doing so, he's in the left lane and he bends down below the dash to get his sunglasses, moving from left lane to right lane to shoulder, and clips the back of the car. The car was immediately burst into a ball of fire. It was an inferno from back bumper to front fender in 1.8 seconds. The car was engulfed in fire. The temperature inside the car rose to 2,500 degrees in 3 seconds. Two brave men, one from Pleasant Hill, one from Liberty, Missouri, of the 70 people who stopped to watch, but the fire was too hot to approach the car, they had the courage to approach the car. And the young trooper sitting next to me, he burned to death over the course of 3 minutes and 37 seconds. I then went unconscious. These two brave men pulled me out through the passenger window. I was airlifted right off of I-70 and taken back to Missouri University to that same ICU where my family had just been 11 months earlier. I'm told that my father just slid down the wall thinking that another member of his family was going to die there in that ICU. But the story changed for me. The story was that I was burned over 40% of my body, 3rd and 4th degree. 3rd degree means it goes all the way through. Like a 1st degree burn is a sunburn. A 2nd degree burn is a blister. A 3rd degree burn, that skin needs to come off and you need to have grafted skin put on it. 4th degree means it burned through the bone. And I was all 3rd and 4th degree. All of the skin on my face was burned off. My scalp was burned off. This is an artificial ear that they made. My hand, when I was turning to give the license to the trooper, was burned so badly you could see the skeleton in my hand. And of course, my legs were sitting in puddles of flaming gasoline. And so the fire was just coming up this direction. So up to here, you'd look at me and go, that boy's been in a really bad fire. And I was. Over the course of the next 2.5 months, almost 3 months, I endured 18 surgeries, 18 units of blood, and many, many skin grafts. And the process for skin grafting is they do what's called debridement. Debridement is the process by which you tear off all of the dead or necrotic tissue, and they take it off with pliers and tweezers, and I'm sitting naked in like a baby pool on a shower stool. This process happens, and it's the most pain the human body can withstand without losing your mind. And debridement took 2 hours, and I was debrided 121 times. And I still had, I had IVs of morphine full throttle in both arms, and it was horrific pain. And each time they would bring donor skin, tissue, and bone to rebuild my legs, to rebuild my hand, to rebuild my face, to create this fake ear. Anyway, I was able then to leave the hospital after 2.5 months, and it was on the news a lot, and it should have been, because when a young trooper is burned to death like that, it is national news. And of course, in Kansas City, I own a business, and so a lot of folks recognize my name, and there was a lot of awareness of it. I wasn't able to go back to work for over 1.5 years because I couldn't bear weight on my legs. I came home in a wheelchair, then a walker, then a cane, and then prostheses in the bottom of my feet. But here I am now, and even though I carried morphine in my pocket for 4 years, because the pain was still pretty pronounced, I'm here now. It'll be 22 years on May the 22nd next month. So Micah, my niece, lost her life June the 30th, 23 years ago of 2002. Isn't it interesting? I noticed you all mentioned dates. You'll remember that date that you lost your loved one for the rest of your life. You won't even have to think about it. Micah was killed at 4 o'clock on June the 30th, 2002. My wreck was May the 22nd at 10 minutes to 7 on 2003. Since that time, I've wanted to give back. And I contacted Midwest Organ Transplant Network, and then they put me in touch with the wonderful people at Gift of Life in Kansas City. And as a volunteer there, and a while I was on the board, that organization gives over 600 talks to high schoolers throughout the metro area. Why are we targeting high schoolers? Is because that's where the greatest number of organs comes from. So, and I've had a very, very full life because somebody made that gift of skin, bone, tissue, and those are the things that oftentimes are forgotten or you don't want to think about. And I was completely wrong. I made that decision based on my ignorance of the situation. When skin is removed from the body, it leaves the body simply looking like it has a bright sunburn. It's not what you think it would have been. And the other thing I might mention to you as donor families now, and the ache that's in your heart, and these 69 people that are here smiling, and they did live life, and they gave life. And you know the stories behind each of those people. And you know what tragedy took them from you suddenly. But you also know the gift that they told you that they wanted you to do. And just like when we talk to the high school kids, we say, you can sign your driver's license all you want, but the next of kin can override that. So we don't talk the kids into being organ donors. We simply say, please have this conversation with your family so that your family would know if something would happen to you, what you'd like to have done. And in the meantime, then, I always honor my niece Micah on her birthday, December 23rd, on the day that she went to heaven. And how do I handle this? And I can speak to this from experience now, where you all are fresh in this, only in this past year. I give into it. I don't avoid it. I went to grief counseling. I took my parents to grief counseling. I took my children to grief counseling, and I embrace it. And on her birthday, my sister fixes her special cake. I look at her picture, there's a special song. And does it bring tears? Yes, sometimes. But it brings such joy that I'm thinking, we had her for 18 years. Most of the world didn't get to know her. And God, thank you, you gave her to us for 18 years. And then you called her home, because I truly believe we're all here on loan from heaven, and just like a great library. And God says, I want that book back onto my bookcase, because there's a story I want to write for that person. And now that person has done their job on earth, I need them back with me. And that has given me tremendous comfort, and I only encourage you to think of the same thing. You were blessed and lucky to have these 69 people with you for however many years that was. And none of us ever dreamed at the beginning of that relationship that it would transition to this, but there will still be a relationship with that person in your life for the rest of your life as you continue to give them honor by being at events like this. Thank you so much for sharing my story.
Michael, thank you so much for being here today to honor Micah's legacy and also reminding us the power of tissue donation and its impact on people. Next, I would like to invite the Deputy Director for the Missouri Department of Health and Human Services, Ms. Alicia Jenkins, to the podium.
Short people, sorry. Thank you. And I have to take my glasses off and on now to see and read. The measure of life is not its duration, but its donation. A quote by Peter Marshall. Thank you all for the opportunity to come before you today and to talk about the donor program. When the donor program staff asked me would I come, and I was like, sure, I'll be there. Tell me what you want me to do, I'll do it. But I am so humble and I'm so full because my family has been impacted by donations, and for that, I thank you. It's a wonderful program. The actual lives that are being saved, the people that are being healed, the opportunity for people to be able to grow, it is so greatly appreciated. And I had no idea what I was coming into today. This was my first time coming, but it's a beautiful thing to be here and to listen to the words that have been said, to understand what it means to get those calls and to wait and to see if somebody is going to be able to go in and get a transplant. It's also, I understand about what it means to donate, having a young person in my family who has given the gift of life. And for that, I am grateful as well. I appreciate you all. I understand your grief. I thank you for your time and for everything that you all do on a daily basis to help save lives for those who are impacted. And for that, I thank you. I really do. So, having said that, the other part of my task is to introduce our Director for the Department of Health and Senior Services, Sarah Wilson.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you. The stories that have been shared here today are truly amazing. As Alicia mentioned, I'm Sarah Wilson. I'm the Director of the Department of Health and Senior Services. I've been the director all of 11 weeks, and so it is an honor to be here with you today. I cannot think of a more meaningful, selfless, and kind act than organ donation. But when I say that it's an honor to be here with you today, it is truly an honor, and I'd like to tell you why. As a little background, you may know that I'm new because I just told you, but I have been in healthcare for 30 years. I am a nurse by training, and organ donation is not a new concept to me. I've spent many years primarily in the fields of obstetrics and hospice and operations, but my most meaningful time has been spent helping life come into this world and helping life leave this world, both changing the world forever. Over the last 11 weeks, many opportunities to address groups have come and gone. And for the most part, I've met all of those needs, and I consider it a part of the position. As part of the position, coming here today, I was provided a packet of certificates to sign, about that thick. And as the days go, my day fills up very fast, and so I took the certificates home with me. And it was about 9 p.m. Last week, and I thought, I've got 15 minutes. I've got an ink pen and a stack of certificates until I'm going to bed. And so I sat down in bed and I began to sign the certificates. And after a couple of certificates, I ran across a name, and a name that we're recognizing here today as having given a gift of life. And that was Luann Tandy. It stopped me with a feeling that I can't even explain today. You see, as a young nurse, Leanne was a mentor and an educator. Leanne and I had no idea that as I was going to sit down in bed that night and sign off these certificates, that I would be running across her name. Time has passed, jobs have passed, experiences have passed, and yet there was her name. And so I grabbed my phone and I commenced to looking up Leanne and her family. And you see, it was a time in healthcare where quality really wasn't a concept. As a nurse, of course we gave quality care. We followed protocols and we did the things we needed to do to keep people safe and to provide the care that they needed. And Leanne was a mentor in quality and educated to no end. And I always looked up to her. She was one of the first people that had really instilled that there was something other to healthcare than what we had been doing previously. She had advanced degrees, and I just really looked up to her a tremendous amount. And as I grabbed my phone and as I read about Leanne and about her family through the obituary, I became curious. And so I commenced to looking up every name on the certificates of which I had. At 15 minutes, turned into several hours. And today, standing up here before you, I can't recall and tell you about each and every person that I looked up. Your family, some of you, I probably read about you that night as I was sitting in bed. But what I do remember is it changed my approach to the certificates that I was signing. And I realized those certificates represent a life where there was purpose and joy and love. And another life, or lives, that had the potential to have new purpose and new love and new joy because of a selfless gift. I'm especially grateful to Luann for continuing to teach and remind me, even though she's gone from this earth, to slow down and to value the quality over the quantity. It was an honor to know her and to learn about the lives of all of those who continue to give and to be here with you today. It's a highlight and one I'll look forward to in the years to come. So thank you for your being here today and for this opportunity. 。
Thank you all. Thank you to the director and the deputy director for being with us this afternoon as part of our donor recognition program. As the itinerary in your program indicates, we are about to conclude by inviting Pastor Duncan back up. Just want to walk through a couple of steps with everybody. If we had great weather, what we do at 5 o'clock is then we move this donor tribute wall to the governor's garden for the 6 o'clock remembrance. If you've checked the weather though this afternoon, we're expecting some strong winds. And then this becomes a giant kite, which I don't think would make any of us real happy. So we're going to call a little bit of an audible here, is after we invite Pastor Duncan back up, then we're going to do a group photo, and then we'll have a couple minutes of transition. In essentially the 6 o'clock program, we're going to move up in time frame, and about 5 minutes after the group photo, we're going to invite you, if you feel inclined to, you don't need to, but to stay. And if you would like to share a little bit about your loved one, you can come up here, you can take their photo from the wall, and you can share for 2 or 3 minutes about your loved one as part of their legacy, sharing their story, making sure that their legacy of life lives on in others. And if you feel it's in your heart today, we'd really encourage you to do so. One of the things that happens is when you share that story of life, you give hope to those who are waiting. And there's 103,000 Americans today, approximately 1,600 in the great state of Missouri, who are waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. When they hear that someone else said yes, it gives them hope. And so we ask you not only today, but moving forward to share that story with others if you feel inclined to. So with that, I'll invite Pastor back up.
When I was told that I was going to close this thing out, I thought, okay, I'm a pastor. I've done that many times. And then you get here and you hear all the stories and watch all of you come up and receive the certificates. That becomes a little harder of a task. How do you close it up? It's sort of like, how do you commemorate somebody's life in 20 to 30 minutes? It's really impossible. But I am reminded that this weekend is Easter. This weekend is the day in which we celebrate the resurrection, the day in which we celebrate that death has been defeated, and the fact that the worst thing in life will never be the last thing. It's more than just are peeps good or not. They're not, for the record. It's more than just hunting eggs and having all kind of cutesy clothes and whatever. It's a day in which we are reminded that in the world of God, nothing will ever end in sadness and sorrow. The while the pride and the joy you felt coming up and receiving the certificate and thinking about how your loved one saved someone's life, it's got to be encouraging and uplifting in the midst of a sea of sorrow. And my hope and my prayer for you is that, if anything, that you get out of this, to be reminded that though right now the mixture between sorrow and pride is sort of always oscillating back and forth, that there will be a day where pride and joy far outweighs it. The grief and sorrow won't feel like it fully weighs you down completely, but you're able to know that your loved one participated in the great truth of all time, that the worst thing will never, ever be the last thing. So may the God in whom we live, move, and have our being make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you this day and forevermore. Amen.